Welcome to Sports Radio WNML.com. Post-game coverage after Tennessee defeats Kentucky this afternoon at Neyland Stadium 24-7. With Josh Ward, Tyler Ivens, I'm Brian Rice. Josh, we'll start with you. Did you see anything like this coming out of Tennessee? Performance top to bottom, offense and defense.
If you told me that Tennessee was going to win, I wouldn't have been surprised by that at all. But if you told me this was going to happen, a 24-7 win, that Tennessee would rush for 215 yards and that Kentucky would go for 77, I would have said in which season, because not happening today, not happening this year with the way Kentucky has played and Tennessee's rush offense has struggled. So just impressed on all fronts with what Tennessee was able to do, how aggressive they were up front, how disruptive they were with what Kentucky wanted to do. Tennessee really kind of set the pace. By halftime, it felt like it was over. You knew, well, it's not over yet, but Tennessee continued to press. And then when it's 24-0, I think everybody knew, unless something unbelievably insane happens in Tennessee football, I know, but in this case, it didn't. Tennessee continued to press down.
We'll get to the offense in just a second with big play before halftime, but Tyler, defensively, since not getting a stop in the second half against South Carolina, Tennessee in the last two games, the last 8 quarters, 10 total points.
Yeah, Darrell Taylor has a huge day with 4 sacks, just falls a half sack short of a Tennessee record. But defensively as a whole, anytime Terry Wilson tried to make a play with his legs, it seemed Tennessee had an answer for it. Anytime Terry Wilson tried to get Kentucky back in the game with his arm, they had an answer for it. I'm kind of kicking myself right now because for the longest time, I had Kentucky fans blowing up the mentions saying, how many over 100 are you going to pay us if Benny Snell breaks 100? He finishes with 81 today. Literally every aspect of the game defensively. I don't know what Kevin Shearer, I don't know what Jeremy Pruitt had planned for Kentucky, but it clearly worked. And much to what Josh said, there was never a question if this game was in hand. I mean, sure, you knew you still had to play a half of football, but Tennessee was dominant, in my opinion, for 4 quarters of football.
The offense looked pretty good in the first half, but Josh, the touchdown drive that Tennessee almost lucked into at the end of the first half, again, good clock management, knowing that they were going to get the ball to start the second half regardless.
Yeah, that's what I think Tennessee fans wanted to see going into that drive. Hey, take a shot. Tennessee called a timeout before Kentucky's punting the ball away, and it looked like, okay, Tennessee might try. And, of course, the thought was maybe try for a field goal. But when Tennessee was in the yardage position that it was, well, Jared Garantano takes a shot down the field. Marquez Callaway goes and makes a play on the ball. We've talked about those 50-50 balls. That's one where it's 50-50 for all players involved, so you start to divvy it up. And Callaway, again, these players are able on the outside. Callaway, Palmer continues to step up. Juwan Jennings, they can make contested catches, and that was one where it felt like a knockout punch almost because Kentucky still hasn't scored more than 17 points since September. When it's 17-0 at the half, you knew that was going to change the way Kentucky wanted to play.
For both of you guys, Tennessee now with 5 wins.
Yeah.
You get back-to-back games against Missouri and Vanderbilt, who had a very sloppy but very offensive-heavy game today. What can Tennessee do the next 2 weeks, and can they get bowl eligible against those 2 teams?
Okay, let's talk about the obvious. They can win as many as 7 games this year. Will that realistically happen? Only time will tell. I'm done making predictions about this Tennessee football team because I didn't expect them to win this football game tonight. Look, snapping clear. Get ready for Missouri. Vanderbilt's 2 weeks from now in Nashville. You know, all the talks for would you accept a 5-7 bowl bid? I mean, yeah, it's still on the table because 5-7 is still on the table. But if Tennessee plays like they played tonight for 4 quarters of football, 6-6, 7-5, to anybody who didn't think you had plans around Christmas, you better start circling December 22, Birmingham, Alabama, or December 31, Memphis, Tennessee. Not to hot take it, but obviously bowling is back on the table.
Yeah, I think that's probably the expectation among fans. If Tennessee loses the next 2, it's not a real surprise if that happens, I don't think. It would be disappointing. No overreaction, I don't think is needed. But I think a lot of fans are also saying, that South Carolina game was very winnable, obviously. You have a 2-score lead in the second half. So Tennessee could have its 6th win today. They don't. They're 5-5, but you'll take this position, I think. So if you can split the next 2, you're happy. 7-5 is on the table. All 3 outcomes are possible. 5-7, 6-6, 7-5. But Tennessee, I thought, really needed a win in this Kentucky game. Missouri's going to be a tough matchup with Drew Lock's ability to throw the football. Drew Lock has the ability to not make plays on the road, though. Tennessee's going to go in with momentum. Next 2 weeks, I think, are going to be really interesting, but what's really good for Tennessee, there's something to play for here the next 2 weeks.
Our post-game breakdown and our preview of next week starts with Sunday Sports Sound Off with Jimmy Himes and Tim Irwin tomorrow morning, Sunday at 8, and then we'll start Monday morning with this guy and Heather Harrington at 6 a.m. Thanks for watching. This is Sports Radio WNML.